Listen to me, daughter. There's something powerful about a woman who knows she's been anointed. She walks differently. She speaks with authority. She doesn't beg for respect. It follows her. Because when God places his hand upon you, there's a glow the world can't dim, a fire no storm can drown, and a purpose no enemy can steal. An anointed woman doesn't chase attention. She commands it by presence. Her peace is her weapon. Her silence is her strength. Her faith is her foundation. Life didn't hand her anything easy. She's been through the valley, walked through fire, and still came out shining. She's not standing because she's lucky. She's standing because she's chosen. When the world counted her out, God counted her in. When others saw a problem, God saw potential. When she was rejected, it was just divine redirection. So tonight, as you listen to this message, don't just hear it, feel it. Let it remind you that every storm you survive wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to anoint you. Divine selection is the foundation of an anointed woman's identity. She is not chosen by society's approval, by popularity, or by the applause of people. She is handpicked by God. Her calling begins in silence, often in the unseen places of her life. While the world chases titles, she's being shaped in the shadows. The anointing on her life is not a result of chance, but of divine intention. Every step she takes is ordered by heaven, even when it leads her through paths she didn't understand. She carries a sacred purpose that cannot be duplicated, delayed, or denied. Because the one who called her has already written her victory into the script of her destiny. There's something powerful about divine selection. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for a committee to agree. When God chooses a woman, that choice overrides every earthly rejection. It silences the critics and cancels the opinions of those who thought she would never rise. Her selection comes with a divine stamp that no human hand can erase. She is not here by accident. She is here by appointment. And the moment she realizes that, her entire perspective changes. She stops asking why things happen to her and begins to understand they happen for her. The betrayals, the disappointments, the closed doors, all of them were part of her preparation. Because divine selection isn't about comfort, it's about calling. The anointed woman carries a heavenly assignment that often feels too heavy for her own strength. That's the point. God's selection never depends on human capability. He doesn't choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. Her journey may not look glamorous, but it is holy. She learns to embrace the process, even when it's painful, because deep inside she knows she's not being punished. She's being positioned. The wilderness moments that others run from are the very places where her anointing grows roots. In her seasons of obscurity, she's learning obedience. In her moments of silence, she's developing spiritual sensitivity. In her tears, she's receiving divine clarity. Divine selection requires surrender. It asks her to let go of control and trust the unseen hand guiding her life. It's not easy. There are days when she feels forgotten, when her faith is tested, when everything she believes seems to crumble around her. But even in those moments, the call doesn't leave her. The anointing doesn't lift. The presence of God continues to whisper, "I chose you for this." And somehow that whisper becomes enough to keep her moving forward. The anointed woman learns that being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. It means being committed. She begins to understand that divine favor doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like separation. The people she thought would walk with her may leave not because they're evil, but because they're not anointed for the same journey. Divine selection often isolates before it elevates. It strips away distractions so she can hear the voice that truly matters. The same God who chose her will also prune her because anointing without preparation is dangerous. Before he puts her on display, he purifies her motives, strengthens her faith, and builds her endurance. Every hidden season is proof that heaven is working behind the scenes. When the appointed time comes, she doesn't need to fight for recognition. God brings her into visibility in his timing. What once felt like a delay turns out to be divine protection. The doors that didn't open were never meant to. The relationships that ended were never rooted in purpose. The tears she cried watered the soil for the harvest she's about to step into. Because divine selection comes with divine timing, and the timing never fails. Her anointing becomes evident not because she forces it, but because it cannot be hidden. The same people who overlooked her begin to see the light she carries. The same situations that once broke her now testify to her strength. She's not moved by pride or arrogance. She's moved by purpose. Every time she speaks, people don't just hear her, they feel her. That's the mark of someone chosen by God. Her words carry weight because they come from a place of experience, from the oil that was produced in the crushing. Divine selection also means divine protection. There are things that should have destroyed her, but they didn't. Not because she was strong enough, but because she was covered. The anointed woman walks with invisible armor. The same hand that chose her also shields her. Enemies may rise, storms may rage, but they can't touch what God has anointed. She doesn't waste time fighting unnecessary battles because she understands the difference between distraction and destiny. When you're chosen, not every attack deserves your attention. Sometimes silence is your greatest strategy. Being divinely selected also gives her a unique confidence. Not a loud boastful one, but a quiet assurance that even when things look chaotic, she's still in alignment. Her confidence comes from knowing who called her. She doesn't measure herself against others because her journey is custom-made. There's no competition in the kingdom. The anointed woman celebrates others. Knowing their success doesn't threaten her assignment. Her selection was never based on comparison. It was based on calling. She walks in humility because she understands that her anointing isn't for display. It's for service. She carries compassion where others might carry ego. She serves where others seek to be served. Her strength is in her submission to God's will. That's the beauty of divine selection. It produces women who lead not with pride but with purpose. They inspire others not by what they say but by who they are. They walk into a room and change the atmosphere without uttering a word, because the presence of God within them speaks louder than any introduction. Every challenge she faces becomes another reminder of her calling. She learns that divine selection comes with spiritual warfare. But it also comes with divine backup. Heaven fights for her. Grace surrounds her. Mercy follows her. Every step she takes is watched, guided, and empowered by the one who chose her. Even when she stumbles, she's never disqualified. God's choice is not fragile. It's eternal. And when she finally looks back, she realizes that every pain had purpose. The rejections, the failures, the waiting seasons. All of them were necessary chapters in the story of her anointing. She can now stand tall, not because life was kind, but because God was faithful. Her confidence doesn't come from her past. It comes from the promise that what God starts, He finishes. Divine selection turns ordinary women into extraordinary vessels. It transforms insecurity into influence and wounds into wisdom. It takes what the world calls broken and turns it into something beautifully useful. The anointed woman becomes a living testimony that God still chooses, still calls, and still anoints people who others overlook. Divine selection isn't about perfection. It's about purpose. It's the unseen signature of God on a woman's life declaring, "She belongs to me." And once heaven makes that declaration, nothing on earth can undo it. Her anointing becomes her identity. Her obedience becomes her weapon. And her purpose becomes her legacy. She doesn't chase opportunities anymore. She attracts them. She doesn't worry about what's next. She trusts the one who knows what's next. She wakes up every morning with a quiet power, knowing that being chosen isn't just an honor. It's a responsibility. Her life becomes the evidence that divine selection is real. That when God chooses someone, He equips them, empowers them, and exalts them in His perfect time. And that is the essence of an anointed woman, chosen not by men, but by God, carrying a light the darkness cannot comprehend. Walking boldly in divine selection and living proof that heaven's choice will always stand firm on earth. The power in the process is what defines the anointed woman. Her strength isn't built in comfort or ease, but in the fire that tries to consume her. Every trial, every heartbreak, every delay she has endured was not a punishment, but a preparation. The process was never meant to destroy her. It was designed to develop her. The oil that flows from her life didn't come cheap. It came from seasons of crushing, pressing, and waiting. Every time life pressed her, something divine was being released. The world saw struggle, but heaven saw strength being born. The anointed woman learns that true power doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from surviving it with faith still intact. There's something sacred about her process. When everyone else was looking for shortcuts, she was learning endurance. While others complained about the storm, she was learning to dance in the rain. Her process taught her patience, and patience taught her power. She discovered that her delays were not denials. They were divine appointments disguised as obstacles. The process humbled her, refined her, and reminded her that without resistance, there can be no resilience. It was in her breaking that she learned her true strength. It was in her loneliness that she found divine companionship. It was in her silence that she heard the voice of God louder than ever before. The anointed woman doesn't despise the process because she understands what it's doing inside her. Every closed door trained her to trust the timing of God. Every betrayal sharpened her discernment. Every loss purified her motives. The process taught her what platforms could never teach. That power without character is dangerous. And success without humility is short-lived. Her process has made her unshakable. It has given her a depth that cannot be imitated. When she speaks, her words carry authority because they come from experience, not theory. She's not just talking about faith. She's lived it. She's not just quoting scriptures. She's walked through them. There's power in the process because it reveals what's real. When the fire comes, everything fake burns away. Titles, pride, and pretense fall off in the heat of testing. The anointed woman emerges from her process, pure, focused, and unafraid. She has learned to trust God when she doesn't understand Him. She has learned to walk when she cannot see the path ahead. The process has trained her to rely not on her emotions, but on her conviction. Her faith is no longer fragile. It's forged. Every process has a purpose. The anointed woman realizes that the very thing she thought was meant to break her was actually building her foundation. When the enemy tried to bury her, he didn't realize she was a seed. The pressure that was meant to crush her only activated her growth. She learns to thank God for the closed doors, for the people who walked away, for the seasons of silence, because now she understands that all of it was necessary. The process wasn't about proving her to others. It was about preparing her for herself. When you look at her now, she glows differently. Not because life has been easy, but because she's been through fire and didn't lose her flame. The anointed woman carries a peace that confuses people. They wonder how she can smile after everything she's endured. It's because her process taught her that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in the middle of them. Her process turned pain into perspective and storms into strength. It stripped her of fear and filled her with faith. The beauty of her process is that it's not wasted. Every tear she cried watered the soil of her destiny. Every disappointment planted a seed of determination. Every waiting season taught her how to walk by faith and not by sight. The process transformed her mindset. She no longer prays for things to be easier. She prays to become stronger. She doesn't ask for lighter loads. She asks for stronger shoulders. The anointed woman doesn't run from pressure because she knows pressure produces power. She understands that the oil doesn't flow without the olive being crushed. The fragrance doesn't release without the flower being pressed. The diamond doesn't shine without the stone being cut. Her process is proof that greatness is not found in ease, but in endurance. She embraces the uncomfortable moments because she knows they are divine classrooms where God teaches her who she truly is. Through every painful process, she learns that her strength is not her own. It comes from the one who called her. Her process also teaches her timing. She stops rushing what God is still perfecting. She stops forcing what heaven is still forming. She learns that the same God who promised is also the God who prepares. There is no elevation without education, and her process is her schooling. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every setback a setup, and every no a redirection towards something greater. The anointed woman realizes that the journey is just as sacred as the destination. She finds peace in the in-between because she understands that God is working even when she cannot see it. The process shapes her humility. She learns not to look down on anyone because she remembers what it felt like to be broken. She treats people with grace because she knows what it means to need it. Her process has made her compassionate, wise, and grounded. She carries power, but it's wrapped in gentleness. She walks in authority, but it's covered in humility. That's what makes her different. That's why she shines without boasting. Her light doesn't need validation, is born from the fire of her process. The power in her process is also revealed through her ability to wait. Waiting seasons are never wasted when she's in them with God. While others grow frustrated, she grows in faith. She understands that waiting is not weakness, it's warfare. Every time she waits in obedience, she wins a battle in the spirit. The process builds her patience, and patience becomes her weapon. She no longer panics in uncertainty because she's learned that God's delays are not denials. They're divine designs. Even her scars carry significance. They're not signs of defeat, but proof of survival. She doesn't hide them. She honors them. They remind her of where she's been and how far she's come. Every scar tells a story of a process she conquered with faith and perseverance. They speak louder than words ever could. Her scars say, "I've been through the storm, but the storm didn't win." The anointed woman realizes that the process is where the power is born. Without the breaking, there would be no blessing. Without the struggle, there would be no strength. Without the wait, there would be no wisdom. She doesn't just endure the process, she embraces it because she knows every step, every tear, every test was orchestrated by the same God who anointed her. Her process became her promotion. Her struggle became her story. And her pain became her platform to show the world what faith can do when it's tested by fire. Now, when she stands before others, her confidence is quiet but undeniable. She's not proud of what she has. She's grateful for what she's become. The process taught her that her worth isn't measured by what she gains, but by what she overcame. The anointed woman walks with power because she has earned it through endurance. She knows that without the process, she would still be ordinary. But because of the process, she has become extraordinary, refined, resilient, and ready for every purpose God has prepared for her. Her story is a living testimony that the process is not punishment. It's preparation. And that preparation holds the power to turn a wounded woman into a warrior, a broken vessel into a beacon of light, and an ordinary soul into an anointed one. Grace under pressure is the silent strength of the anointed woman. It is not loud. It does not boast and it does not seek validation. It is a quiet fire that burns within her spirit when everything around her seems to collapse. Grace is what keeps her standing when the storm refuses to pass. It's the invisible crown she wears when life tries to strip her of her peace. The anointed woman knows that true grace is not about perfection. It's about power and composure. Is about walking through the fire without smelling like smoke. It's about facing battles with a calm spirit that comes from knowing who holds her future. Grace under pressure is what separates her from the rest. When most people would break, she bends but does not shatter. When others lose faith, she holds on with trembling hands but unwavering heart. She understands that grace is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of peace in the middle of it. Her calmness doesn't mean she hasn't cried. It means she's learned to trust even through her tears. Grace gives her the strength to endure without complaining, to fight without losing her softness, and to rise without bitterness. The anointed woman doesn't let pressure define her. She lets it refine her. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to display grace. When people provoke her, she doesn't react out of emotion. She responds out of wisdom. When life squeezes her, what flows out is not anger or frustration, but faith and endurance. Grace teaches her to stand still when others panic. It trains her to stay kind when others are cruel. It allows her to keep her dignity even when she's disrespected. Her peace becomes her protest, her patience, her power. Grace under pressure is not weakness. It is mastery. It's the art of letting God fight battles that words cannot win. The anointed woman doesn't need to shout to prove her strength. Her silence speaks volume. She understands that every time she refuses to lose her peace, she wins a victory in the unseen realm. Her grace confuses her enemies because they expected her to break, to quit, to respond. But instead, she grows stronger in the same environment that was designed to break her spirit. Grace becomes her shield, protecting her from reacting in ways that would diminish her purpose. There's a calm authority that surrounds an anointed woman who walks in grace. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. She knows that God's hand is on her even when the world is against her. Pressure doesn't make her forget who she is. It reminds her who God is. Every trial becomes a testimony of divine stability. She learns to smile in situations that used to make her cry because she's seen what God can do with broken pieces. Her grace doesn't deny the pain. It redefines it. Instead of saying, "Why me?" she begins to whisper, "Use me." Because grace turns pain into purpose and pressure into power. Every time she faces resistance, she doesn't see it as a setback, but as strength training for her faith. Grace teaches her that the same pressure that crushes the weak polishes the strong. Diamonds don't form without pressure, and neither does the character of a true